he's still trying to learn my voice, but everybody else around here he knows pretty well.
That's so
and
special.
knows when they come in and start talking.
You're so sweet and cute. They're softer than I thought they would be.
Yes.
I don't know why I was like expecting like bristles.
Yes. Well, they look pretty coarse.
Right?
And if you look at a sloth's hair under the microscope,
Yeah.
it actually has little micro cracks all in it and crevices and things like that. And that's what aids in the wild. You know, you see pictures of moths and things like that, and algae growing on their backs. And that's what, you know, being in the rainforest in such a wet and moist environment, it all just kind of pulls down their back after it rains and things like that.
But it's different here.
Yes, and so thankfully we don't have what's called the sloth moth that lives on the backs of the sloths. In the rainforest, they have those there.
Oh, wow.
And it's actually really important for them to have them there in the rainforest because it's a symbiotic relationship, meaning that not only the sloths benefit, but the moths benefit as well. So for the sloths, the moths kind of aid in the, you know, the growth of the algae and bacteria and things like that. They grow on their back, and that's good coverage for them. And also, you know, when they turn around and groom themselves, they lick up a portion of the algae and moss and the moths that are with them. And that not only serves as just a little bit of protein source for them and carbohydrates and things like that, but it aids in their good microbiome in their gut. And so you think about that really is what helps them digest their food. And since everything takes so long in a sloth, it's obviously really important that they have good digestive enzymes and things like that in their stomach. And so it benefits the sloth in that way, and it benefits the moth because it gives them a little breeding ground to hang out and to basically little transports for them. And another cool thing about the sloths is that they only use the bathroom once a week.
I saw that on your TikTok. We were just talking about that.
Yes.
Because I was like, what if he poops on him?
Yes. And so they come down the same tree, same side of the tree, and go to the same pile that they always do.
Really?
And in that pile, when they come down, some of the moths come off of them and lay their larvae in the dung of the sloth.
Interesting.
And then once those sloths or the moths mature, they'll fly up into the canopy and land on one of the sloths. And so it's kind of a all full circle of life there for both of them.
You're so small. Can I say hi to AJ? I think you should say hi to the baby. Okay, shall we transfer?
It's been about 10 minutes. You want to transfer now or wait till about 15?
Okay. I'll wait for you, sweet baby.
We'll make sure everybody gets equal smiles.
You're
Is there
so
any way-
cute. What'd you do?
Can I take pictures?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
What did you do? What did you see? What did you see? Oh, look at that.
And so babies naturally in the wild, they don't spend a whole lot of time with mom. They're weaned at just a few months old, and then afterwards, you know, it's not always that the mother will leave the baby. Sometimes it's baby that will leave mother. They're really not social animals in the
Really?
wild. Yeah, and so, you know, you think of like a flock of geese or a herd
Yeah,
of
they kind of go on their own.
Yeah, so there's not a name for that for the sloths because they just don't exist. There's not a
Interesting.
group of sloths. And so-
You just don't know, Wolf.
Now, I read on the email, like Delaware, that Columbia or anything, do they have like really good sense of smell?
Yeah, sense of smell, sense of hearing, yeah, because since they lack, you know, if you think about losing
Senses,
yes,
yeah.
if you lose one of
Heightened
your
senses.
senses, then yeah, naturally it heightens the other ones, and so they can smell, you know, the difference between us two, we like to think, and they can definitely smell when we break out the bananas.
Oh.
They only occasionally get those, since, you know, it's not something that they get in their natural diet in the rainforest.
It's like a treat.
Yeah, it's basically like a treat, and it kind of helps to balance their diet, but it's only a treat. They don't eat it a whole lot, but they love it.
What do they usually eat?
So usually they eat a mixture of spinach, sweet potato, zucchini.
It's like baby food.
Yes, pretty much. And so for Dash, all of that's really finely shaved up. But Flash and Zoe, they both eat little sticks of it.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, he's cute. I love how slow they move. It's so crazy. I've always thought that's so crazy. I'm like, and then I'm like, what are like predators like in the wild?
Yes.
Like they have a lot of them.
Well, you would think so, but in
Yeah.
the wild, you know, with how camouflaged they are
That's
from
true.
the rainforest floor, you can't really see them. All they're doing is just hanging out there.
That's
They don't
true.
really move a whole lot, and when they do, it's really slow.
Yeah.
And so they're really camouflaged to a lot of the predators, but really the main one is the harpy eagle. You know, they have really good eyesight and they can see from up above. And so that's really our number one, but number twos would be like ocelots and jaguars, things like that, and they can spot them. But you know, it's pretty difficult for them to be spotted just because they virtually have no smell. In the wild, they pretty much just smell like their environment because they have so much moss and algae and things like that that grow on them. And then the snakes, you know, they hunt by sense of smell, or not sense of smell, temperature changes.
Yeah.
And so since they're the same temperature as their surroundings, if they don't regulate their own body temperature, they can't really be detected.
That's so
by the
cool
snakes.
though, that's so cool.
So yeah, if a snake were to stumble upon a sloth, it would be purely by chance. But
Dang.
if a jaguar or ocelot or something like that were to discover them and decide to dare and try to go out after them, after these real thin limbs that get real thin on the ends, the sloth's goal is to, you know, get to the end of the branch, get to the end of the branch.
Yeah.
And if this cat just keeps going after him and they eventually fall, the sloth can take up to a 100-foot fall and be not injured whatsoever. But, you know, jaguars are probably not going to be as lucky.
Yeah.
And that's because a two-toed sloth actually has 46 ribs total, 23 sets of ribs, and all of those ribs have connective tissue that's connected to their intestinal organs and things like that. And so you think about, you know, getting into a car wreck and things like that. The jar is really your intestines and brain stuff sloshing around inside of us, but they don't really have that effect.
Oh
And
my
so
God,
they're pretty
that's
much
so
built
cool.
like a truck.
Look at you. You're so special. You're so resilient and so strong.
Yes.
Who's that? Who's that? Who is
You guys from
that?
Louisiana?
Now we're from Maryville.
Maryville.
Yeah.
Why you got the who dat then?
Who's that? Look.
I almost lived in Maryville on Reagan Mill Road.
Okay, yeah.
There's a house out there that was built by two crazy people.
Oh, yeah.
And it's on 86 acres and it's 14,000 square feet. And they had it built in the dry and shipped on vehicles.
What?
So it's like an infinite series of hallways. So that's why I didn't buy it, is it's 14,000 square feet. Nothing in the whole house is wider than 10 feet,
That's
unless there's
terrifying.
rows of poles in the middle of it. And they never had any kids, and they were super into porcelain dolls. And there's like
Ugh.
5,000
No,
porcelain
that's
dolls in
haunted,
the
that's
house.
haunted,
Yeah,
that's
it's
terrifying.
yeah. Cool place though.
Crazy,
It's
yeah.
so Reagan Mill Road. You're like 10 minutes to the hospital, and from on that lot, you cannot see that anything else exists because it's ringed all the way around with trees.
That's great.
It's amazing, but
Let's do a drive.
couldn't do that in the dry.
Who do you hear? I like how bendy you are. What do you do?
That was my daddy. That's where he spends most of the time is in John's house. And so once he gets a little bit older, he'll spend more time down here. But you know, not
That's
times.
your daddy.
Most of the time, he
Yeah,
hears
you
his
did.
voice.
It's like Louisiana. I was going like that. Oh, I know. Daddy's gone. I'm sorry. Your noses look so dry.
They always look really shiny.
Yeah.
His stays more dry than
Look
some.
at that. Hello,
Flash,
dear.
his is always pretty wet.
Hello, dear. It's almost aging time. Almost aging time.
I don't know, it's been about 15 minutes. If
Okay.
you wanted to trade.
Let's do a trade.
I just want like 5 minutes.
No,
Almost-
This is a birthday present for her.
Yeah, she's more excited to see you.
I want you to hold him.
Well, we can wait a little bit longer. That's fine.
Can we get up there? There you go. Father.
He is very baby.
Yes. We call him our belly baby because Zoe, she likes to hang up around our shoulders.
That's what I've seen.
But he,
Yeah.
he likes to wrap around our torsos.
It's like a hug. You love a hug.
Here's the little hug.
Oh, hello there. Where you going?
And you can kind of tell he naturally kind of holds on pretty
Yeah.
tight. And so for him, this is just his relaxed state. You know, for us, it takes energy for us to, you know,
Yeah.
do something like that. But for them, this is just their relaxed state. And to actually straighten them out is their
Oh.
stress state. So it takes, you know, a little bit of thinking for them to actually straighten their hands out.
I never even seen that.
Yes,
That
yeah.
would be-
Yes.
You're
And so
relaxed.
pretty helpful for them to, you know, you think about the military challenge where you can hang onto the bar, you do it for like 10 minutes, or not 10 minutes, like
That's
100
true.
seconds or something like that, and it's really difficult, and not a lot of people can do it.
Yeah.
And that's
They
because
can do it.
sloths are actually known to be 3 times stronger than people relative to their body size. So actually, since they're born, from the minute that they're born, they're able to hold all of their body weight from one hand.
Oh my god.
So you think about a little infant trying to hold
Oh,
on to
heck.
something, hold on to all their body weight.
That's so interesting.
Yes, it's just natural for them to.
Yeah, because they just hang around.
Yes. That's because all of their tendons and everything that's in their forearms are so tight that it's just natural for them to be locked down like that.
That is so
So big. I know you hear a lot of voices.
I was laughing because John was giving his loud speech, and then at the end he goes, "Oh no, I didn't even hit record."
And now he's doing it again.
Maybe, I don't know, but that's what he just said. If they switch, just turn this.
Okay.
Where's he going? Where's he going? He's so curious. They seem pretty curious,
Yeah.
like naturally curious. So I
It's
never
funny.
said, "Oh, look at you."
It's funny because Flash, our big one, he's
Yeah.
always real interested about what Zoe's doing in there. But he doesn't actually want to interact. He just kind of hangs on and just kind of looks
Look at
around.
her.
And then Zoe notices Flash, and she's just like, "Oh my gosh, friend!" And she starts coming out and like going over to see who it is and what. what
Have
they're
they? Do
doing.
they interact? All three?
No,
No, it's
not yet. No,
Okay.
we've not
You gotta, like,
introduced them,
acclimate
just-
that, you gotta kinda, like-
yes, yeah. And
Especially
like I
since they're
said,
not social.
yeah, since they're not so social in the wild, we don't know how they would react to being so close to each other. But they definitely wonder about each other, though.
Oh yeah.
We had Flash out this morning. He was hanging out there, and Zoe was sitting in the chair with
Yeah.
Kevin, and Flash was just reaching down towards Zoe, and she's just looking up at him like, "What in the world?"
That's so fun.
How often do they get fed?
They're pretty much snackers, you know, so if you think about it in the wild, they're pretty much snackers there, and they eat just kind of whenever. And that's because they have, you know, food readily available to them at all times. And so they sleep the majority of the day. In the wild, they sleep between 16 and 17 hours a day, and usually are more active at nighttime. But here we try to mimic the same thing and just kind of, you know, we provide it at all times, but they don't always necessarily come out and go to get it.
Yeah.
But we snack them, you know, throughout the day. We do in the morning and evenings for sure, and then just throughout the
What's
day.
like their natural like sleep cycle? I can't remember if they sleep more during the day.
Yes,
Yeah,
so they
naturally.
sleep in the day about 16 to 17 hours.
I'm about to
naturally.
say about your sleep.
Yes.
You sleep.
Yeah.
You want to transfer now? I want you to hold him. I want you to hold him. Not that I don't want to not hold him, but I
Yeah.
want you to hold him.
Have to share the experience. Well, you got about 10 minutes. You know,
Yeah,
try it
let's
out.
do that.
All
Let's
right.
do like 5 and 5.
Oh, you got it. I want you to have 10 with him. What are you doing? Look, he wants you.
Nothing gets so
You
funny.
see AJ?
Do they have, yes, so they have teeth.
Yes, they do.
Oh yeah, he did. He nibbled up. Like a little baby. Like doing gymnastics. Think about it, Tom. What's he doing down there, baby? What's he doing down there? Ready to go to AJ? Let's go to AJ. How do we do that? Do I have to pass?
No, I'll.
Okay, I was like, that makes me nervous. I was like, that can't be in my hands.
Yes. So you want me to go ahead and turn it?
Yeah.
And then we always give them just a minute in between, just to kind of, so it's not so back to back. And so if you guys want to trade chairs, that chair's a little bit easier to. If you want to, you can slouch back with them, because obviously he feels a little bit more secure if he's like this rather than hanging over. Yes, you ready?
So bad.
He's like, who am I going to now?
Oh, see, he goes to the belly. That's so cute.
It does.
Little sloth.
Oh, she decided to share.
Of course.
She the whole time was like, I want you to hold it. No, I want you to
Oh.
hold it.
Let me grab the other camera.
The .5s are hilarious. I have so many of the .5s.
74-year-old won't put
Isn't he soft?
He's so soft.
And they stay pretty soft like that.
Yeah.
Even Flash is pretty soft.
There's a What else have I always wanted to know about sloths? I don't know. I should have made like a burning questions list before.
I see his like his eyes. Yeah.
Mhm.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
They're so.
yes. They stay real dilated. But they love time like this. Both Dash and Zoe, like I said, they came from the same breeder.
Yeah.
And when they were babies, well, I say babies, he's still a baby. but
Yeah.
Still on mom.
Yeah.
They were clicker trained. And so that means that, you know, from a really young age, he would make a clicker sound and just take baby for like 10, 15 seconds and then give baby right back to mom. And then there's always some kind of rewarding or something like that.
Are they territorial at first, of the babies?
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure that they're
Yeah.
probably a little bit skeptical, but you know, with them having having
Yeah.
done it so many times, and know what the clicker means, that,
Of
oh,
course.
I hear that clicker and borrow baby for a minute and I get
a
banana or
reward.
something,
Okay.
yeah. And so it's always a positive interaction that they reinforce with that. And so they gradually increase that time as they get a little bit older,
Okay.
they take them for a little bit longer. And then by the time that they're fully weaned from mom, then they're pretty much attached to somebody else,
Yeah.
you know? And to pass what's called the ambassador test, so when they come here, they're ambassador animals,
Okay.
which means that, you know, they're used for just giving information and things like that, and obviously being able to be held and
Yeah.
stuff. They have to pass a final ambassador test, which means that they actually genuinely like to be held and like
Yes.
to interact with people, which is very different from, you know, if you've ever taken a cruise or something like that and you get off the cruise ship and you have a native that's out there holding a little baby sloth and charging $20 to take a picture with the sloth. That's just their way of, you know, making a quick buck. And so we hope that with our encounters that we do here and try to educate people, that, you know, you get your sloth fix here with someone that's
Yes.
ethnically bred and,
Yes.
you know, bred in captivity.
Oh
So
my God,
it's
yeah.
kind of like the difference between a house cat and a lion.
Yes.
You know, they're totally different animals.
Yeah.
And out in the wild, you know, the natives will take a baby like that even off the mother's back if they can, because you're gonna make more money with that.
Yeah.
And they
Just
might
so
return it to
sad.
the rainforest, but you know, that baby virtually has no chance. at that
Exactly.
point. And so.
We were just talking about that, like ethical, like
Yes.
animal practices. 'Cause
Yes.
I didn't really realize that was an issue until
Yes.
recently, especially like aquariums.
Yes.
And then I saw a video of like this at the Atlanta Aquarium.
Mhm.
I've heard they do a pretty good job
Yeah.
with like ethical practices.
Yeah.
And like they said they know that because of like the behaviors, like they're doing behaviors they would do in the
Yes.
wild
Yeah.
in the encounter or in the
Yeah.
enclosure, which means they're happy and content.
Yeah.
Which is so important. I didn't realize, I was just talking about, because I saw you guys on TikTok and then I realized how close you were and I was like, oh my god.
Mhm.
And my friend was telling me about like Little Ponderosa Zoo and Rescue.
Mhm.
There's so many little places like this
Yes.
in Tennessee.
Yeah.
I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's
I
pretty
love
cool.
it. I love it. Yay! Isn't it precious?
This is so amazing.
Isn't it so sweet?
He's like, I have no regrets.
This is good.
He's so small.
He's so small, so soft.
He's so small, so soft. Oh my gosh. I'm always curious how animals see. So like the night vision, that helps like envision what he's looking at right now.
Don't ask me how scientists figured that
I know,
out,
that's
because they
what I
don't have
always
any
wonder.
cone cells. Yeah.
always been.
Like some pretty smart people. I can guess.
Right? I'm like, I could never.
Yeah.
So cute.
What's the like little thing under their claw? It kind of looks like a
Oh,
lip.
the paw pad, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's actually pretty sensitive and it helps them to kind of sense what they're holding on to and things like that. And so that's another thing that Zoe's pretty particular about is that if you start messing with her paw pad too much, she gets a little bit antsy. And so with him, we're trying to, you know, make sure that he knows that touching his paw pads, his bellies and things like that's okay.
Understandable. Yeah, I saw that too. It was like, it looked like cracked little leather.
Yes. Yeah. And his claws are a little bit sharper than Zoe's and Flash's just because he doesn't climb around as much.
Oh, so
but
that's interesting. It like wears them down a little?
Yeah, they naturally
Oh.
wear down as they climb. and things like
Interesting.
that. Yep.
And I guess that will just come with age, right? Yeah, okay.
And he has the ability to, the big bird cage that he stays in that basket has, you know, all these different, branches and stuff like that going around, but he'll really only go up there if you set the basket down and he still wants to hold on to you, then he'll start reaching up and climbing up a little bit. Making little noises.
That's so funny.
I'm so slow.
I know. And Zoe, we actually almost named her Oof as a baby, because when we go to put her down, she'd go oof, oof.
No, I was wondering, what
Reaching.
songs do they make?
So
Do
they
they
do
make?
that sound.
Yes. Flash, she doesn't make as much sounds, but our baby Dash and Zoe, they both kind of, you know, oof, oof, just little noises like
Stop
that.
it. I didn't know they had the like specific calls they would do in the wild.
Well, the only other one that I can think of is the mating call that they make.
Yeah.
And so the females, when they come into heat, they'll actually let out this real loud screech. And the males that are in the area will slowly make their way, you know, to where she's at.
Interesting.
And then after the mating process and everything, they just pretty much part ways again. The male will go back to the tree that he
So-
came from. Yeah.
They're so content. I'm glad they actually like it.
Yes, yeah.
'Cause that's so important.
Yeah, we wouldn't do it if they didn't.
Exactly.
Yeah, actually, like it seems like he.
Oh my god, he's loving it.
Yes.
Did
A lot
you
of times
hear?
when we go to put him back down in the basket, he'll start reaching up again and making little noises.
That's sweet.
It is about that time.
Yeah. So you don't say bye-bye.
You want me to take any more pictures of both of you together or anything like that?
Should we?
Yes.
Here, I'll just crouch down behind you.
Yeah.
Take a little picture. Here you
Thank you.
go. Thank you. Can I sit next to you, baby? Sit next to you.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Hi, Flash. For Dash. Flash, Dash.
I say hi Flash so much more than I
I
do
know.
Dash.
Oh, look at it.
Oh, I'm gonna unlatch there.